Kronos Workforce Ready. Many of you may have heard of Kronos because it's been around forever. It's about a 40-year-old company that started off doing time and reporting and attendance reporting and things of that nature, but now they've evolved into a more robust human capital management software offering. Now, Kronos and its product suite are typically used by small to mid-sized organizations. It's fairly simple to use. It's not a super complex type of HCM capability. And not a lot of companies need a ton of complexity in their human capital management, but they simply need something that will help them automate their processes and better track their human capital management. Now, one of the benefits of Kronos Workforce Ready and one of its strengths is that it tends to focus on organizations that are either in government or have heavily regulated types of environments. So that's very important because you want to make sure you're compliant from a workforce and union perspective. So that's one thing you may want to consider as you evaluate Kronos and some of the other systems in the market. Now, one thing to note about Kronos Workforce Ready and Kronos in general is that they recently merged with Ultimate Software. In fact, just a few days before recording this video, they had finalized that merger. And what that means is now that Kronos is part of Ultimate Software and vice versa, it does two things. One, it suggests that it's a bigger, more powerful, and more stable company. The second thing it suggests, though, that's more of a point of risk or more of a question than anything, is what does this mean to the future of Kronos Workforce Ready? Now, I believe that there are two different markets that they're serving, and they tend to have different strengths between those two products, so I think both will coexist at least for a certain amount of time, but it is something to be aware of as you think about your HCM systems, is what is the future product roadmap of that system, and how confident are you that that technology will be around for the longer term. But in any case, all of these things considered is enough to land Kronos Workforce Ready at number 5 on our list. Workday. It's a system that many of you have heard of. It's the newest system that's been around the least amount of time in our top 5 list, but it's grown phenomenally over the first few years of the first decade of its existence. It was built as a cloud solution, so it's got a certain amount of maturity and advanced cloud capabilities if that's important to you. It's not a system that's being migrated from on-premise to the cloud. It was already built in the cloud, which can be appealing to a lot of organizations. Workforce is very common in healthcare, government, hospitals, education. There's certain industry niches that it seems to do really well in. But having said that, we also see some manufacturing and distribution and aerospace and food types of companies use it as well. It's fairly industry agnostic, like a lot of our HCM top list is, but those tend to be some of the segments that they are the strongest in and that we tend to see the most commonly. A couple other things to note about Workday. They are an HCM first type of system, but they have in some ways become sort of the Salesforce of the HCM space. For those of you that don't know, Salesforce is a CRM or customer relationship management system that's cloud-based. But the reason I call Workday the Salesforce of HCM is because Salesforce and Workday are both taking a similar strategy in that they're building a whole ecosystem of third-party applications that support their product outside of their core areas of competency. So in the case of Workday, they've built and allowed third-party application developers to start building functionality that is outside the HCM space or supports the core HCM space. So for example, Workday has started to build financial capabilities. That's allowed them to provide more of an ERP type of capability, a back office financial type of capability. So companies that want to lead with HCM but might want to add financials, or they might want to add other competencies later on, will find that the Workday ecosystem is getting bigger, and there's more and more third-party applications and third-party developers that are building systems that can bolt onto the Workday platform. Now, probably the biggest risk and the biggest thing keeping Workday from being at the number 1 slot in our list is, first of all, the track record. They have less of a track record than some of the other systems in our top 5. But the biggest thing is that there have been a number of implementation challenges with the company. The company has grown very quickly, and what I think is happening there is that we're having a discrepancy or high variation in the quality of resources and the quality of implementations. We as a company have been asked to clean up a number of Workday implementations. We've been asked to come in and help evaluate replacements for Workday because the Workday implementations didn't go well, and so now they're looking for alternatives to replace Workday. So that is still a minority of the time. A majority are not in that situation, but relative to the number of installations that Workday is seeing, there appears to be a higher number of troubled Workday implementations. That may not all be related to the software. A lot of that is related to the way it's being implemented, but it's something to be very aware of in that there is a concerning trend in the space. And until that settles down, until we see the Workday's growth isn't getting the best of them, that's going to probably hold them back a bit. But having said all that, it's a very strong product. A lot of companies are very successful with it. That's enough to land Workday at number 2 on our list.